Backstage at America's Got Talent, the air was thick with nerves, singers whispering warm-ups, dancers stretching, magicians pacing and rehearsing tricks under their breath. But in the corner, sitting calmly on a metal folding chair, was Rico de la Cruz, a 27-year-old Filipino singer who had traveled more than 7,000 miles for this one moment. While others trembled with anxiety, Rico sat with his hands folded, eyes closed, quietly humming a melody that carried an unexpected warmth through the chaotic room. For years, Rico had performed in small bars along the streets of Manila, venues where the sound systems crackled, and audiences seldom looked up from their food. Still, he poured his heart into every note, dreaming of a stage big enough to hold everything he had inside. Tonight, he wasn't just another performer, he was a man standing in the doorway of destiny. A staff member approached. "Rico de la Cruz. You're up next." Rico opened his eyes, exhaled deeply, and stood. His hands trembled for a moment, but he steadied them by gripping the mic he brought from home, the same one he practiced with in his tiny apartment. As he stepped toward the glowing AGT stage entrance, the roar of the crowd grew louder. The moment he walked out, the bright lights washed over him, momentarily blinding but strangely comforting. In front of him sat the judges, Heidi smiling warmly, Sophia offering an encouraging nod, Howie leaning forward with curiosity. Simon Cowell, however, barely looked up, glancing at his notes with an uninterested expression. "What's your name, and what will you be performing?" Simon asked. "My name is Rico de la Cruz, from the Philippines. I will be singing an Elvis Presley classic." The audience murmured. "Elvis? Risky." But Rico simply nodded, took his stance, and waited for the music cue, ready to change everything. The soft instrumental intro floated across the theater, the unmistakable melody of "Can't Help Falling in Love." Rico closed his eyes for a brief moment, grounding himself, letting every fear melt away. The crowd leaned in, expecting a shaky attempt at an Elvis classic, the kind that often ended in disappointment. Even Simon barely shifted in his seat, resting his chin on his hand with the look of a man bracing for a letdown. Then Rico opened his eyes, stepped closer to the microphone, and released the first note. It was like a shockwave. The purity of his tone, the rich warmth of his voice, the soft vibrato, every element carried the unmistakable signature of Elvis Presley. Not a copy. Not a parody. A living echo of a voice frozen in time, suddenly awakened. The audience gasped audibly. A ripple of whispers spread through the theater. Sophia's eyes widened. Heidi's lips parted in surprise. Howie leaned forward so quickly his chair squeaked. But the most telling reaction was Simon. His pen stopped mid-air. His gaze shot up. His brows lifted. He stared at Rico with a stunned expression that only a handful of performers in AGT history had ever managed to draw from him. Rico continued, his voice smooth and steady, rising effortlessly with each line. The crowd, mesmerized, grew quieter and quieter, afraid any sound might break the spell. Every lyric carried emotion, pain, romance, longing, like he wasn't just singing Elvis's song, but telling his own story through it. By the time he reached the chorus, some audience members were already standing, hands over their hearts, recording the moment they knew they'd never forget. Something miraculous was unfolding on the AGT stage. And everyone felt it. As Rico moved into the heart of the song, something remarkable began to happen, not suddenly, not loudly, but with the quiet confidence of a man stepping fully into who he was meant to be. His posture relaxed, his shoulders lowered, and a natural rhythm flowed through him. He shifted his weight gently from one foot to the other, mimicking the subtle sway Elvis was famous for, but without forcing it. It came naturally, like the music was guiding his body the same way it guided his voice. The spotlight narrowed slightly, bathing Rico in a warm golden glow. The gentle sheen of sweat on his forehead made him look like he was glowing from within. Gasps rippled through the audience as they realized something. Rico wasn't just sounding like Elvis. He was becoming a performer in his own right. He lifted one hand, palm outward in a soft, iconic Elvis gesture. The crowd erupted again, even mid-song. Phones rose like glowing stars in the audience, capturing a moment no one wanted to miss. Sophia whispered to Heidi, "This is unreal, it's like he's channeling him." Heidi nodded, eyes glazed with awe, replying softly, "But it's still him. He has his own soul in it." Howie pointed at the stage with both hands, mouthing, "This guy is special." But Simon stared in a way only he could, his famously sharp eyes softening, analyzing, absorbing every tiny detail. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on the desk, completely forgetting the audience behind him. He wasn't just impressed. He was captivated. And Rico? He wasn't thinking about the judges or the cameras. He was lost in the music. Singing not just to be heard, but to be remembered. As the song neared its final verse, the entire theater seemed to hold its breath. Rico stepped forward, the light following him like it recognized greatness. His voice climbed gently, effortlessly, carrying a depth of emotion that even Elvis himself would have admired. Every lyric felt personal, as if Rico was singing to someone he had lost, someone he still loved, someone time couldn't take from him. The orchestra softened. The crowd grew still. The moment tightened. Then Rico delivered the final note. He held it with perfect control, smooth, powerful, heartbreakingly pure. The note didn't just fill the room, it floated through it, vibrating in the rafters, echoing across the stunned silence. For a split second after the music cut off, there was absolute stillness. And then, boom! The entire auditorium erupted into an explosion of cheering. People jumped out of their seats. Some clapped over their heads. Others screamed his name. Hands waved, phones flashed, every inch of the crowd electrified. Sophia stood instantly, hands pressed to her heart. Heidi shot to her feet, cheering loudly. Howie thrust both fists into the air, yelling, "Yes! That's what I'm talking about." But all eyes shifted to Simon. He remained seated for just a heartbeat longer, staring at Rico like he couldn't believe what he'd just witnessed. Then, slowly, dramatically, he pushed back his chair and stood up. The audience completely lost it. Simon Cowell didn't stand for many performers. But he stood for Rico. Rico froze, overwhelmed, his hands trembling around the microphone. The spotlight shimmered on him like he was made of gold. This wasn't just applause. This was a moment of history being written on the AGT stage. As the last echoes of applause faded, Rico stood breathless at center stage, blinking through the bright lights and the waves of cheering that still shook the room. Gold confetti hadn't fallen, yet, but the energy felt like it was already raining down on him. He clutched the microphone with trembling hands, his chest rising and falling as he tried to process what had just happened. Simon leaned toward his mic first. "Rico," he began, his tone unusually gentle, "I've heard thousands of singers, thousands. But what you just did." He paused as the crowd erupted again, forcing him to wait. "Was one of the most extraordinary things I've seen on this stage." Rico's eyes shimmered with emotion. Sophia jumped in next. "You made us feel something magical," she said. "You didn't just sing Elvis, you brought the spirit of music alive." Heidi smiled warmly. "You have a gift, Rico. And the world needs to hear it." Howie leaned forward, pointing at him with both hands. "Las Vegas. Tours. Worldwide stages. You're ready for all of it." Rico swallowed hard, overwhelmed. But Simon wasn't finished. He sat back, looking at Rico with a mixture of pride and disbelief. "You know," Simon said, "every once in a while, a singer walks onto this stage and reminds us why this show exists. You came here from the Philippines with nothing but a dream." The audience cheered louder. "And you just turned that dream into something real." Then Simon's expression shifted. His lips curled into a rare, genuine smile. I'm not giving you a yes. I'm giving you. He slammed the golden buzzer. Gold exploded from the ceiling. The stage burst into glowing sparkles. Rico dropped to his knees, tears streaming down his face as the confetti swirled around him like a storm of shining stars. The judges stood. The audience screamed. And Simon applauded, slow, proud, impressed. Rico de la Cruz, the Filipino Elvis, had just become a legend.